Okay, bus bench babes, are you anything like me and you're looking around your home and you're like, man, I have so much stuff. Where did all this stuff come from? Or maybe you're also like me and you're like, you should be putting healthy food in your body, but growing up as a poor girl, the scarcity just makes me want to crave Pop-Tarts. Or maybe you're at a networking event and you should go across the room and talk to that agent that you've been dying to get to know, but they work at a different brokerage. And you're like, ugh, do they want to be friends with me? This episode might be hitting home for you. We are going to talk all about scarcity versus abundance, and we are going to go deep on all the things. Let's dive in.
You're listening to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast, where we invite you to check your ego at the app, grab a cup of coffee, and get ready to dive into all things real estate marketing, social media, friendship, hardship, love, money mindset, and all the things that celebrate you as a badass boss babe.
We're here to encourage you, show up for you, give you a loving kick in the pants when you need it most, and be your soft place to land on the hardest of days. So pull up a seat at our table and get ready to be inspired and start living your best life by design.
Welcome to the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast. We are so excited you're here.
Okay, girls, let's dive in.
Maybe.
Happy 3-year anniversary.
Maybe.
Where am I? What's 3 years? What's 3 years, Beth?
36 months. That's what 3 years is.
No, what is what is the
Tres
gift?
años.
No, what is the gift that we're supposed to be gifting each other?
I don't know.
Wood?
We don't
It's
follow.
like wood?
We don't follow that in our
All right.
house.
Okay, well that's not what this week's podcast episode is on. Are you recording, Ryan? Yeah. Great. But today is our 3-year anniversary, which is so exciting.
It's kind of like an out of body experience for me today. I don't know why, but
today's been kind of a weird day, a little bit.
Yeah, it started out weird.
Yeah.
Carrie got us balloons.
Hey, so the gift, Ryan just looked it up. Pause,
Yeah.
Beth, is leather. I'd like a
What are you
leather
gonna get
sofa.
me?
I'd like a leather sofa.
Great. I would like some new shoes.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, Carrie got balloons.
And cupcakes.
There's cupcakes?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see the cupcakes
And I put
yet.
sprinkles on them.
Oh, this is exciting. We're actually celebrating, and we hit over, we're well over now, but we hit 30,000 downloads not that long ago. So thank you everyone who has been here for a minute. Or if you're new, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I guess we're professional now.
That's what it seems.
I guess.
I'm still stuttering, but that's what it seems.
How many questions did I mess up on the last interview, Beth? 3? Was it 3?
No, not
2?
really. It was
2?
good.
It was all good. Okay, anyways. So now we're talking about today.
Ryan's gonna fix everything.
Ryan's gonna fix everything, make me sound amazing. No one's ever gonna know. Also, don't hit me up on social if you figure out how I fucked it up. But moving on. We are not talking about that today. Well, we're gonna talk about scarcity mindset versus abundance and how it impacts your life and your business. This is a big one.
It's so huge. So we're like, we needed to tackle this topic before lunch because we're like, if we try to tackle this topic after lunch here in our batch recording day, I don't think we'll have the bandwidth for it at that point.
It's a bit of an emotional load to even discuss this.
Right.
Like understanding the difference and like navigating it as human beings, as business owners, as women. Right? Like it's hard. So it is gonna take a little energy, but we're here for it.
Well, and when we are talking about different topics for shows, we realize we haven't done a topic conversation like this since early on, since year one.
Money Mindset episode 4, I believe, correct?
I think
episode
so.
4.
So like way back at the beginning. Yeah. And then we haven't really touched it since, yet it impacts our life every single day.
It is, and it's interesting because we have these conversations as friends. Yep. You and I, like, regularly, and we have them in business as well, but we're having these conversations together with friends, scarcity versus abundance mindset, and how that affects us and how much we've grown, Beth, too, just over the last couple of years with this, and also how much we've struggled with it during that. It is huge. So this is something that once we're like, okay, we're going to do money mindset, and we're like, no, this is so much bigger than money mindset, so let's tackle this big topic. So thank you for being here for this, everyone. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. So why don't we talk about the difference? How about we start with that? the difference between abundance and the difference between scarcity when it comes to your mindset.
Yeah. I love, we found this like when we were doing the old Google. It says the abundance mindset is when you believe there are plenty of resources for everyone. A scarcity mindset is when you believe resources are limited. So the scarcity mindset can cause hyperfixation, which leads to short-term coping instead of long-term problem solving.
Which, like, let's just stop right there. That is a huge one there.
Huge.
The coping versus problem solving.
Right. And it increases jealousy and stress. And scarcity mindset is when you are obsessed with something and it's usually time or money related and you can't seem to focus on anything else no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
And I felt like that really encompassed so much. And it's really hard to articulate. And I talked to someone about, just recently, we were having a conversation and they were talking about someone. And I said, it really sounds like that person operates their life in a scarcity mode. And the person I was talking to said, I don't explain that further. I don't get what you mean. Well, because they don't think that there's enough. Mm-hmm. There's a finite number, it's going to run out.
Yep.
Of whatever that problem was.
Yeah, whatever it is, right? This crosses into every area of our lives.
Area.
Business, personal, it doesn't matter. And, by nature, scarcity mindset is rooted in fear.
Yes,
which is also something we don't necessarily think about all the time. Fear, insecurity, lack of trust. And because of this, you can adapt unhealthy behaviors, right? Like hoarding, overusing of resources. I don't mean like hoarding in your house, like becoming a hoarder. Right? I mean just like hoarding, like different, like overuse of resources and how this leaks into your like professional relationships and your life too.
Well, and you say not hoarding of your house, but I think that is a big problem. Mm-hmm. Like I look in my closets and I'm like, oh my God, I need to stop shopping. Like it can become like an unhealthy thing when you think that there's not enough, then you're over consuming. Yes,
this is true. So we've shared specifically about money mindset, like we just mentioned, and the impact it's had on your business, life, your well-being on episode 4, money mindset truth bombs that will change your life. But today we're just going to dive deeper into scarcity mindset in all areas of life, not just money, how it can impact your business in ways that you're not necessarily aware of right now. Even ways that probably surprised us a little bit when jotting down the notes for this episode.
Yeah, it was crazy. One of the first things that popped in my mind was like scarcity around food, and it might seem counterintuitive when I'm like, I feel like I need to lose some weight. But growing up, like we grew up really poor. We were on welfare for part of our lives growing up. And so my mom always made everything homemade. And like, this sounds so like counterintuitive with now, like, but I didn't want homemade food growing up. Like all my friends got like junk food. They got store-bought junk food. And I'm like, my mom's making like homemade pudding. No, I want the kind of Jell-O out of the box. And so I found myself when I first moved out as an adult that I would go to the grocery store and I just bought like literal like shit food, like Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch and pretty much anything that was like packaged processed food. And that all stemmed from scarcity, from growing up when I thought that I had a lack of what everybody else had. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm like, okay, now I'm an adult. I've moved out. I have some money. I can do whatever I want. And then I just ate shit food.
It's because the flip side of it, right? That's the flip side of it. And I need all of this now because I couldn't have it.
Right. And it was during the fat-free craze, so as skinny as can be. Oh, yeah. But then all of a sudden that starts to spiral and you're like, oh, now I'm used to eating shit food. But like real food that's homemade is like a luxury item now. Mm-hmm. Like it's so weird how that cycle showed up. And like when we started talking about this, I'm like, oh my God, I can totally just see, like I thought I deserved it and I'm going to have all of it now because I could.
I'm successful. Now I can have this. I'm on my own. This is what I get to do. You know, that really makes me think so much about as becoming a mom and navigating that has been like this really big thing that Ryan and I have really been working through and like trying to figure out how to make these decisions appropriately. Because as a daughter, right, as a she's a female, as a daughter, like she and like relationship with food and, you know, wanting this and not having this. And it's like, how do we find the balance so that it makes sense that she can have things that are healthy, but also be exposed to things that, I mean, I guess we would deem as unhealthy, right? Or having less nutrition. Let's go ahead and say that, without food shaming or body shaming. So then scarcity doesn't come up for her when she's 12, when she's 14, when she's 20. Like, how do we do this so it's like the balance of making sure we're feeding her nutritious food, but also she has the exposure to these other things that we can deem whatever we want, unhealthy, junk food, whatever we want to call them, because they do exist in the real world. And how do we make it so she's not like, I never get to have those, I don't even know what that is, or seeing it, wanting it, reaching for it, and no. Well, what's that going to do? Well, you just explained exactly what that will do. So we struggle with this. This is a hard thing to do as a parent in navigating this. It's not easy.
I really love, like when Kaya was like to the age where she could feed herself, it's really cool to see like how you guys approach meals. And you're like, okay, well, here's like something sweet and here's something savory and here's, maybe something that's like what I would have considered a treat as a child, where it's like you have to finish your whole plate.
Oh, the cleanup,
before you get the treat. Yeah. Well, that's all rooted in scarcity and abundance also.
It is.
Like, there's starving kids in Africa. So if you don't eat all of your food on your plate, well, now looking back, my mom, she's like, I didn't know any better. I would have never had you guys do that, because now all three of you girls have struggled with your weight.
Yeah. And like, you don't know, right? Like, where are you supposed to learn this until you actually learn it?
Well, and like Kaya to leave sweets, like she'll just take a bite and then she's good and walks away. And I'm like, oh my God, I would have never done that as a child.
Or sometimes she'll eat it all and ask for more. Like there's that too. Yeah. So we've in our house, how we are attempting to navigate this mostly is dessert. If there is a dessert, right, it is served with the meal. Outside of, ice cream, which is ridiculous, is going to melt, right? But it's usually served with the meal, trying to treat it as like a normal thing. But also we talk about protein gives us longer energy. Like we talk about what different things do. And she understands, like, I need fiber to help helps my tummy. So we have these open conversations. I never had these conversations.
No.
And really until now, having a child, like you think about it, right? Or they tell you need, like, remember Fiber One bars, which are just like, do you remember those?
Sugar.
But so like we're having, like, this is a regular thing that we are navigating as parents. And this also reminds me of when I was younger, my grandpa on my mom's side, he was like obsessed with feeding everyone. He was so generous.
Love language.
It's his love language. He would make just these elaborate giant meals and just such abundance. And he had his freezers just jam-packed with everything forever. And it came from a place of like love and generosity, but it was also because he didn't have that growing up.
It was the Depression era, probably.
Exactly. And so that scarcity that came with that. So I saw that. And then this like the overindulgence side, the abundance side of it, once you could have it. And so that is something that when we talk about scarcity and we talk about abundance, the abundance and scarcity can both become negative things, or they become, it's like, how do we find this balance to make them work together in all areas?
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about scarcity when it comes to like a consumer or shopping.
I'm exhibit A for this, for sure. I have found myself over the years like over shopping when I see a sale. And I think a lot of this stems from not having money growing up. So then a sale pops up and you're like, ooh, well, it's super cheap, or like, look at these sale things. And you're like, well, am I really going to wear it? Maybe not. But then I'm like, well, I feel like I can't leave it here. It's so cheap. They're like, and I always say, they're paying me to take this from the store, if it's like a $5 shirt. And then I get it home and I cleaned out my closet a couple weeks ago and had a pile to like give to a friend, and half the stuff still had tags on it. And I'm like, okay, that's gross. Like that certainly is inner work that I still need work on. I'm like, why am I buying stuff that I probably know full well that I'm not going to wear it?
Because it's the sale and the fear of missing out.
Right. It's not good.
It's that like the more we get, the more joy that comes into our lives.
Yeah, it's not bringing more joy for sure. It's bringing more stress, if anything.
Okay, so when we think about the flip side of that, which is minimalism, right? And sure, there are great things as far as that goes if you're like, I'm a minimalist, but it's also a scarcity thing. It can creep into that. And I might get some hate for saying this, but I'm just going to come out and say
We're keeping it real around here.
We're keeping it real. So like, you're not doing yourself a service by identifying with a particular group of anything and then fixating on it and like having that become an obsession that then is how you lead your life or becomes part of your identity. So like zero waste, like the heroic campaigner, but you're actually, what you're doing is the same exact thing in the reversed. It all comes from scarcity.
Yeah.
So like it leads you to a place where you still have no room for abundance.
It's paralyzing.
It's paralyzing.
There's no balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you turn from like this hyperfixation of bringing too much into your home
to the exact opposite.
To the exact opposite. Bringing in like way too little. And at the excuse of I'm doing good, which like, of course, we all know like we overconsume as a country. Like that is the reality. But at what point do you take it so far that you're fixating? Are you thinking about it every hour? Are you thinking about it every half hour? Are you thinking about it every 10 minutes? Are you thinking about it every single time you do anything? Well, have you taken it too far in the other direction then?
Yeah. So then it's weird that the tricks your brain plays on you that you're like, I'm totally doing a good thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, but are you?
Yeah.
Or is it just better to find some balance somewhere in the middle? Yeah.
So I think it's like it's something to ask ourselves is when we get into a place of identification, when this becomes part of who we are. And again, might get some hate for this, but if you identify yourself as like anything that can like stick you in the scarcity bucket, maybe just like ask a few more questions around it, right? Like, or, you know, if you're feeling like you have so much abundance in one area, maybe ask yourself some questions around that. Am I identifying too much with this particular thing?
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, let's shift into business because, you know, most people listening to this podcast are in business of some sort and it shows up all the time.
Oh, yes.
But like it can affect like how we view community and versus competition. And like, are we in this together or is this a they win, I lose thing?
Yes. This is so true. And, you know, from running a team standpoint, like bringing in others because you want to paycheck instead of thinking of how it's going to impact your business, right? Like your brand, your well-being, like the overall thing, like I need a paycheck. I need as many people as possible. And we've heard this business model from many realtors who run really successful teams. Cool, right? Like bring on as many people as possible. But are you asking yourself, like, is this out of scarcity? Is this out of a fear of not going, like I'm not going to have enough? Right. And am I bringing on the wrong people because of that? Because I think I need to. That's not brand aligned.
Like that can be a huge backfire thing. Yeah. We've seen that firsthand.
We have. Yeah. And so like if I don't bring on, you know, this person or that person or this group of people, I won't have the success that I need to then deem myself as successful.
Yeah, I totally have sat in on so many masterminds, especially like team leader conversations where I'm like, okay, well, this person's doing it this way. And it's just like crushing it. This person's doing it this way and they're crushing it. So like if I'm not doing it that way, am I like not crushing it or am I a failure? Yeah. Should I just be hiring everybody even though they don't feel aligned with me or the brand? It's created like syndrome, this kind of like inner stress and anxiety in me sometimes when I've sat in those spaces and I'm like, then I just have to kind of go back and be like, okay, ground myself. Like, okay, what do I really want? What do I want this to look like? Do I have to do it like X or Y or whoever else is doing it? No, I get to do it exactly how I want to do it. But it's really hard not to just immediately go into that operating in scarcity if I'm not operating it like other people are doing it.
It's something you navigate all the time, right? We talk about this so much. And it's like this isn't like, okay, I'm no longer scarce or I'm officially abundant, right? It's like this constant juggle of like trying to figure out what this looks like on a daily basis, really, for a business owner.
I think of like early on in my career and even just in the last 10 years, I've worked with clients that, there's one in particular that came in as an online lead from a listing. And the very first time I had the encounter with the wife, it was very lovely. And then when I met both of them, Mr. Buyer was, I'm just going to call it out. He was a nightmare. And I was like, okay, they're cash buyers. So realistically, we're on a time crunch. They're buying a house for a child. They don't live here. Like this pain and suffering is going to be over quickly. It was probably the worst 2 weeks of my life. I can't even tell you how many times I cried. And I'm like, why am I giving someone power over me like that they're like ruining my whole 2-week period? But I'm like, wow. And after that, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. Like I don't want a paycheck that bad in order to work with someone that makes me feel so less than about my abilities as a real estate professional. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just not working with like people like that anymore. And now I feel like that I've like put that out in the universe. Now I feel like the universe, God, whatever, is rewarding me with really fabulous clients. And I don't work with clients like that anymore. And it feels really, really good. But there was a time where I felt like, okay, I need to put food on my table. I actually need to work with clients like that. And I hear real estate agents all the time. They're like, oh my God, all my deals are a nightmare right now. And I'm like, you know what? Ours are not. No. And all of our deals are fabulous.
Shout out to our clients.
Yeah, because we are working with awesome people. Mm-hmm. Like we have opened up the space for abundance for more awesome things to come in.
You know, this reminds me of weddings, going back to my photography days. And I would take clients at first. Some I had amazing clients, overall amazing clients, but there were some that I took that was not a good fit, and it was really hard and made it just a struggle. And when I was done, I was just exhausted.
And it's a struggle bus the whole time you're working with them.
The whole time. And then I remember the one time, the last time I was like, I'm done, when I fired the groom. I was like, done. I'm like, nope, we're done. He was such a nightmare. And this is so funny. I used to get asked like, oh, bridezillas. I'm like, no, grooms actually had more problems with. I was like, you know what? We're not working together. And I was like, I am done. I am no longer. And like the power and like how things shifted, I took my power back. I'm like, I don't need this to be successful. I'm moving on. Good luck.
Yeah.
So that reminds me so much of that. It crosses over into so many different kinds of business in life. It's not just real estate.
Well, I think, but early on in people's careers, I think you think that you need that in order to be successful.
Yes.
And then years into it, you figure out that you don't. Mm-hmm. But when there's a physical lack of paycheck in your bank account, I think people work with people that they would prefer not to work with if they didn't have to.
Scarcity breeds more scarcity. We won't even get into that woo-ness of this.
No, let's not.
All right, let's move on to scarcity mindset in relationships.
Oh my gosh. Ooh. This happens so much for women, like staying in unhealthy friendships or love relationships, all of the above, because you think, this is what I deserve. Nobody else is going to love me. This person loves me. Instead of letting that relationship go and really opening up space for something more incredible to come along.
Oh, it's so true. And gosh, so many of us have been there, right? It's such a relatable thing, being in that relationship where you think there's not going to be anything else if I don't stay. Let's talk a little bit about friendships. And this is something that we've navigated. I've navigated this quite a bit in my adult life. And like staying friends with a childhood friend because they're like your ride or die, or like you've always been friends with them and you're just not evolving at the same space. And so instead of making like peace or like letting go to at least parts of that friendship, you like hold on and you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't. Like you're going to like miss out on that relationship or miss out on that, when really if you just let go to begin with, like what opens up, who comes in, right?
Right.
And it's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that friendship, like as far as just them being a human being. But if you've evolved and you're growing and they're not coming with you, well, you don't have to cut them out of your life entirely, but maybe it's time to just let go of some of that and open up a new door.
Yeah. I don't think it's even humanly possible for people to be evolving at the same pace and at the same rate. And it's okay to, cut back on time with one person and maybe find some people that are more aligned with where you are currently at in life. It's okay.
It's okay. Just accepting that.
What about when it comes to raising kids and the next generation? Like, how does this show up for you guys?
Oh my gosh. So for me, when I think of this, it really boils down to the dialogue that we use not only around our children, but others. So when it comes to gifts received, money received, sharing, that type of thing, right? That is where like I see that scarcity come in like dialogue and conversations, and like being hyper aware of this as a parent of what Kai is hearing and what I'm saying in front of her.
Yeah.
And, also what I'm saying in public settings and what other people are saying to her. I mean, my gosh, scarcity that creeps in conversations just when you're going to get a coffee. It's constant. The last
it's all the time once you start paying attention to it.
It's all the time. The last thing she needs is to hear me speak a word of it.
Right.
Because she's
going to hear it everywhere else.
And there's nothing I can do about it unless I keep her home forever. And that wouldn't work. If you've met her, that's not going to work.
I love when you were planning her first birthday party.
Oh God.
I feel like that was a big growth moment for you.
That was a big growth moment. So okay. I am not going to say what you should do as a parent. I'm not going to give that kind of parenting advice. You do you, right? Like, that's cool. For me, I realized that when I was planning Kaya's first, the money mindset shit started when Beth sent me the book. So if you don't know this story, head back to our money mindset episode number 4.
When Christy said she was basically going to have cancel culture on our friendship.
Yeah, I was like, done. Yeah. So this is a big evolvement from that point. But I realized, I'm like, Kaya, we're going to do no gifts, and we're going to like say no gifts, and then people show up, this is how I'm going to do her party. And then I thought about it more, and I probably had a conversation with you, Beth, who knows? And
you were in the evolution. I was in the evolution, going hard on the how to be a badass at making money. Like, shout out to Jens and Cheryl. Yeah, Jens and Cheryl, what's up? And I was like, I always thought I'd be the mom that said no gifts. But I'm like, what am I teaching her? When someone wants to give her something out of just because they wanted to. Someone wants to love on her. They want to love on her in any way that they can. Like, I don't care if it's a $5 gift, $100 gift. It's not a gift at all. They've come and like they've showered her with love. Like, what am I showing her if I don't host, first of all, people in our home? Right? Which was also a really big struggle for me. We can just start there. Host people in our home. Allow them to bring something for her because they want to celebrate her. Yes. And then allow her to feel that, right? Allow her to feel what that's like to have someone come and celebrate you because they love you. Right. And I was like... And I don't think parents that say no gifts for birthday parties have bad intentions. Let's clarify that. Not at all. But I was like, what am I setting herself up for? What am I setting her up for here? Because I'm literally introducing scarcity when she's 1 year old. What the fuck am I doing? Yep. And I'm like, God, I had to sit with that. And I'm sure we had so many conversations, Ryan and I, together about this. And he's probably like, whatever, just do whatever. Yeah, of course, like, have gifts. But I'm like, for some reason, I thought before this that in order for her to not wanting all these things in my house and that, but there's so much more to that. Yes. There's so much more to that than the gift that is actually brought. Yep. It's the feeling abundance and love. And, you could say, well, gift isn't love. That's actually not true. It can be part of love. It's my love language. I've had people be like, Beth, I know gifting is your love language. Yeah. Please don't bring a gift. And I'm like, and I always say, you are not the boss of me. Yeah. I will do whatever the fuck I'm going to do. Is that what you say, Beth? Yeah. I can. Yeah. Kitty Hart, if you're listening to this episode, you told me, don't. And I said, it's my love language. Mm-hmm. You're not the boss of me. I will do whatever I want. It's this interesting thing that we've done. And minimalism definitely brings in part of that and the no waste and all that. And I respect and believe a lot of things that surround those ideas as well and ways of living. However, not at a kid's first birthday party. That just, after really thinking about that and after, sitting with that, I'm like, oh my God, I have struggled with scarcity my whole life. Right. Growing up, we were poor. My mom worked her ass off to have what we had. Like, we didn't have support. Like, this was, I grew up in that because it was my life. So then why would we keep that going? For her when she's like 1 year old? So that was really hard, but also, like you had said, really big growth moment for me. Yeah. As a mom, as a human being. The one thing that I think that's really cool watching you guys, and like I just get the front row seat because I don't have kids, with how you raise Kaya, where you're like, yeah, we went to sushi. And I'm like, Kaya eats sushi? And you guys are like, well, yeah, because you're so great about exposing her to all sorts of cuisines. So she's not one of those kids that's just like, I'm only going to eat chicken fingers and French fries. I mean, we're going through the beige phase, they call it. Well, yeah. We eat bread. What do we eat? Bread and butter. We eat noodles. Ryan's in here too laughing. Noodles. We eat, I don't think we eat vegetables anymore. We eat very limited fruits, which is very interesting. That's not the norm with her. She's 5. The interesting thing that I hear parents say, though, is they're like, well, we're not going to take our kids out to dinner because that's so expensive. Like, we wouldn't take our kids out for sushi. Or we're not, and I'm not so naive to think that eating out is not expensive. Eating out is very expensive. It's expensive for just Mark and I to eat out. So we aren't talking about, let's say, we aren't talking about that part of it. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the scarcity part of it, where like my child doesn't deserve to have like the same quality of food I have. Like, they're going to get the chicken fingers off the kids menu and not like exposing your kids to bigger and broader things.
I see so many sides to that. Like there's like a million sides to that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different sides to it.
And it's the whole like wanting peace, Ryan. Like I'm just going to say, because he's sitting here, like wanting the peace through your meal too. But like, yes, exposing your kids to different options and whether they say yes or no. But a great example of this, I'm not going to like bring up any specific names or anything, but I have experienced many times with children, the idea that like the child like wants the steak, right? Or I want the, whatever it is, the sandwich, whatever. Well, that's expensive.
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like you're just going to eat that in front of your kid and tell them it's expensive. And then like, that's where you're going to end it.
So then you eat it, but then the child cannot.
Yeah. And granted, like, again, not giving parenting advice here, but what are you saying to your child? What are you saying to your child? Like,
that I'm worth it and you're not.
Don't make him a whole steak. Let him have some.
Yeah.
Let him know that they're worth the freaking steak or whatever it ends up being, the sundae, whatever. Like this idea that they get less than because they are small.
Right.
It's never sat well with me and it never will. But I also believe in treating children like human beings, right? They're important. So that's that. I struggle with this because you see it firsthand, but then also Kaya sees this, right? So then it's like I said, it's like that constant thing out there that if I'm saying it too, my God, what she is hearing in her little brain.
Yeah.
It would be constant.
Yeah. I love that, like, Kaya, like through the lens of Kaya, like from my vantage point is that she's all about sharing and just like sharing. She always brings snacks and she always wants, like when we have podcast recording day and her and Louise are here, like she got her muffin out, like literally like an hour before we started. And she goes, Louise, would you like some of my muffin? And Louise goes, I love blueberry muffins. And then they're both walking around with muffins because they're sharing. Mm-hmm. But then like, how good does that make Louise feel too? Like this is my favorite and my friend is sharing with me.
It's such a beautiful thing and creating like that abundance and like she loves to share. We share. I love to share. Like I love when people share with me. This is like sharing is fun.
Yeah.
And we've never, I don't think, gosh, maybe Ryan might disagree. I don't think we've ever forced her to share. It comes so naturally because she sees us as human beings sharing and being generous. And my gosh, I'm sitting across from you who's you're one of the most generous people that has ever entered my life. And I'm surrounded by very generous people. Mark is also so generous. So like having her around that, like generous people. And it's not like you're over giving, right? Where you're like harming yourself, which is also, that's the flip side of the abundance, right? I'm always getting the tab. And then I'm at home and I'm like, oh my God, I can't pay my bills, right? Yeah. It's not that, but it's like like letting her live in a life of abundance and like others. And I've been in situations that felt so awkward with her because that wasn't a thing, right? Mm-hmm. And how confusing for her to navigate and to see me attempt to navigate something like that is also confusing. It's rare, but it does happen.
Well, and then it's conversations. I mean, it's great because it gives you opportunity for conversations. Mm-hmm. But when a 3, 4, 5-year-old has to navigate like, okay, why is my friend, I'm generous and I like to share, but my friend doesn't like to share. Mm-hmm. Like that adds a whole nother dimension to a kid's brain that maybe they're just not ready to tackle.
Maybe. And like developmentally, right? Kids are going to share at all different ages and everyone's going to tackle it differently. So there's that too. But as an overall, like as a parent, it's like I'm very aware of this. I'm trying really hard. I'm sure I make many mistakes. My God, don't follow me for parenting advice because seriously, I'm fucking up all the time. And so is actually Ryan's really not. He's been pretty much coasting us the last few weeks here. But but when it comes to the sharing and like having that like being generous and openness. There's a beautiful thing there and what it does to friendships as you go and as you grow and what I have seen. And I've been on the flip side of it where it sucked. Like it sucked being like in that scarcity. So for us, it's something that we navigate in like a way that feels really authentic to like how I want to be the best version of myself. And then what does that show her?
Well, and it's the exact opposite of how you were raised, which is so cool. It's the exact opposite of how I always feel like my mom was really generous, but she just didn't have enough to give. My mom is so generous. She wanted to be more generous.
Yes, and like grandparents, so generous. But when you don't have, what do you give them? What are you able to give, right? And so I saw generosity growing up, and I saw that. I didn't see the big abundance piece of it.
Right.
But I saw the generosity, which is probably what's so deep-rooted in me.
Yep. Well, so what if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering, do you have scarcity in your life? Like you're not alone. Like this is happening to all of us. And like, what can you do next?
Well, I think the first thing you can do is give yourself grace. Right? Yeah. Like if you grew up in a home that was stuck in scarcity, it's not going to come supernatural for all of us.
Nope.
So like it might be a muscle you need to work on. Like what does it look like to openly share info with a coworker, right?
I see this so much in real estate. Feel like this is really evolving, that real estate felt very proprietary. So we're all these independent contractors, and I've got some secret sauce that you don't have, Christy, and I'm going to be able to sell 5 more houses this year because I have this and you don't.
You can't tell anyone about it. Whatever you do, don't tell anyone.
That's so old school. And it's really fun to see like this gentle shift in how things are happening. And now it's more like, you know, collaboration over competition, how I'm delivering X, Y, or Z to my clients and how I serve my clients. You could be doing the exact same thing to your clients, but because you are you and I am me, we are all going to do it differently. Yeah. And there's enough to go around. But I think that it's been really hard for a lot of maybe like older school people to think that, oh yeah, I'm not going to go in the poorhouse because I'm sharing and I'm helping maybe a newer agent in my office.
You're just going to bring in more abundance.
Absolutely. So what I try to do in my neighborhood, I did this when I lived in Minneapolis. I lived in, you know, a really diverse, cool neighborhood in Minneapolis. And I always tried to host like a barbecue thing once a summer. And I'm like, just rolled my grill into my front yard and went to Costco and got hot dogs and like invited everybody. It's kind of like the more is more. And here in my neighborhood now, we'll do Taco Tuesdays. And so I need to get one on the calendar when the weather warms up. And I think that like if I can build community, especially like where I live, it's just so easy to like last weekend, Mark was out of town and that we get a blizzard. We have had no blizzards this whole entire winter. Now he's out of town. I'm like, I don't know how to do the tractor snowblower thing. Reached out to the neighbor. I'm like, hey, Mark's out of town this weekend. Any chance that if we actually get really dumped on, you can come plow out the driveway? Yeah, Beth, no problem. We'll take care of it in 1 second. It's because I've created a community that like, it's better for all of us to enrich our lives, to make sure we live in a safe place, to help out one another.
And you want to all help each other. Like it feels good.
Yeah.
That's abundance right there.
Absolutely. And it like not one part about it feels like you owe somebody.
Which is an icky place to be.
It feels really gross.
Keeping like track of something. Like
keeping the tab.
Then it's like, what sort of questions you need to ask yourself of like, why? Where's that actually coming from sort of thing?
Yes.
So another thing is you can ask yourself, how does giving feel? Like, how does it feel in your insides? Like, have an honest conversation with yourself. How do you feel giving instead of taking? What feelings does it bring up and lean into those feelings? It might not feel good.
Yeah.
You might just be like, I don't want to give that because then I have less. That's okay. But like lean into that. Like, where's that coming from? And explore that. Where's that coming from? How can I maybe make some shifts here?
I love that. Well, and for me, I'm doing this exercise right now where I'm going through my home and just like, do I need this? Does this bring me joy? Like Mark doesn't know yet. He doesn't listen to the podcast anyways, unless it's an episode that maybe has him on it or something. I gave away our food saver. I was going to donate it. And one of my girlfriends, my gym buddy, Alyssa, she's like, oh my God, ours just broke. And I'm going, you can have mine. I'm like, Mark has been clinging onto this damn thing since I met him. We've been together for 12 years and we haven't used the damn food saver once.
Bye-bye food saver.
Bye-bye. It's going. Got rid of an ice cream maker that's practically brand new. I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. But like, how can it can benefit somebody else's life.
Yeah. Like going through your home and like, do I have too much? Have I taken abundance too far?
Yeah.
And now what do I need to do?
Kind of that Marie Kondo, when her show was super hot like during COVID, and she would say, she would pick up a sweater and be like, does this bring me joy? No? Okay, great. And then she's basically like thanking her sweater. Thank you for keeping me warm. Thank you for making me look cute whenever I wore this sweater. And now I'm going to send you to a new home. Mm-hmm. So I'm really in the process of doing that in my house because I feel like there's too much abundance and it really is, it's creating a scarcity and joy in space in my life because there's too much of one thing.
It's like when the tables get tipped too far, right? Yeah. It's that juggling that like that balance or that harmony in it.
It's hard to figure.
And it's asking yourself a lot of hard questions.
Right.
Like, where is this actually coming from?
And why? What need am I, what hole am I trying to fill in my life by shopping and buying all this shit that I don't need?
Yeah. So there you have it. There you have it. So where are you at with scarcity and a scarcity mindset, abundance mindset? Like, we would love to hear from you. So hit us up on social. Let us know what you're struggling with. If we've missed anything major, I'm sure we have.
And if you're really like rocking at this part of your life, tell us what you're doing. We're always looking for good tips and tricks over here.
We are. And thanks for being here. So until next time, bus bench babes,
keep your face off a bus bench
and keep being the badass boss babe that you are. Okay, girls, are you feeling as inspired as we are? We're over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of the Girl Get Your Face Off a Bus Bench podcast.
If you want more, head over to girlgetyourfaceoffabusbench.com for show notes and more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. They mean the world to us, and they're what keep us going.
Girl, thanks for being here.